Já tenho 25 pessoas a ver.
Hello and welcome.
Hello, Banner.
I'll just share the link to Adit's LinkedIn again, so you can redirect your questions straight through him. I'm super thrilled for the next guest as well. So as you know, Board of Innovation is organizing this, but we couldn't do it without our partners, and syntheticusers.com happened to be one of them. I've referred so many times to synthetic users that it's easy to forget that I'm actually always referring to syntheticusers.com. And we have Hugo today. He's the Chief Product Officer at Synthetic Users, and he's going to tell you all about it. Right, Hugo?
Yes. I'm here to present a little bit of what we're doing and what we feel is the future of product innovation. So I'm going to start. Let me share everything and let's go. So Synthetic Users, this is the product that me, my co-founder, and the team we've assembled have been building for the last year. We launched in March, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we see as the future of synthetic users as the future of product innovation. So what we believe is going to be the future. This is our big bet. We believe that in a not so far future, we're going to be able to have products that build products. So essentially, products that can almost automatically find needs and find ways to solve them and build even the product itself. But first, before we dive into this, let me just introduce myself. I'm Hugo. As we've already discussed, I'm a co-founder of Synthetic Users. My background is behavioral science. I have a master's in clinical psychology, and I worked for 6 years in a psychology lab managing the day-to-day operations. And since I moved from there, I work in tech, and I have 10 years of product management experience in B2B, B2C, small stuff like 5 people, as we are now, to larger companies like 300. But to be really honest, the product I love the most is the one you see on the right. It's my son, José João, and everything I do is thinking about him. So today, what we're going to be discussing today. Today, we're going to be discussing a little bit of how we got here, what are the amazing capabilities that these models now unlock, and what do they are able to do that allows us to do everything that we're discussing in this summit. Then I'm going to show you where we are concretely today in terms of synthetic users, what is now possible, and why that is a crucial step to where our product that I think the entire industry is moving forward. But let's start by some criticism, by some common criticism that you can see either on academic papers, as you can see on the left. Emily Bender called large language models stochastic parrots. And people on the right on Twitter saying that, oh, they're just good at predicting the next word. This is a common criticism of large language models, but we look at them in the same way that it's true to say that humans are just survival and reproduction machines, but at the same time, we're also so much more than that. And one of the things that people don't really get is the amount of text that was used in these models to train these models. So for a single human to read the entire corpus that was used to train these large language models, it would take 20,000 years. So we say that, oh, they've been trained in the past, but it's an humongous size of data that they've been trained on. And this takes me back to a quote by a statistician, George Box, that said in 1976, he wasn't thinking about large language models for sure, but he said, talking about statistical models, that all models are wrong, but some are useful. Same thing applies to large language models. All of them have their defect. We have hallucinations, we have creeping bias. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be improved, but they are extremely useful and extremely powerful. And to explain two of the main theses behind what we've been building here at Synthetic Users and why we believe this is the future, one of them is that LLMs learn world models. I could try to describe it myself, but I'm going to leave it to Ilya, one of the co-founders of OpenAI and one of the original authors of the paper, the Transformers paper, to describe it, because he does it in a way that is so clear that I'm going to leave it to him. Okay.
No sounds, unfortunately.
But it's
We don't have sound.
no, we don't have sound. Okay. Let's then skip this. I'm going to just tell you what he's saying on this video. He's saying that the process that feels quite simple. I'm going to share the link afterwards with everyone. The process that is used to train these models is a process that, although it seems simple, like learning how to predict the next word, for it to be able to be accomplished, it means that these large language models are learning world models, are learning the intentions, the ambitions, the emotions of the people who wrote the text that was used to train these models. And this is a core concept within our approach to building synthetic users, is that LLMs contain world models. But it's not only that. Not only do they contain world models, as in kind of how our world works in general, but they also contain agent models. An agent is an entity that takes actions based on beliefs and wants to accomplish objectives. And what we mean by this is that they know how to mimic and reproduce different types of agents. So as long as you are good at defining who are the agents you want these models to reproduce, they can really do an amazing work at this. Why did we start with the users? Because when GPT came out, people were like, oh, this is amazing for summarization. This is amazing for this. But what we looked at all those options, we considered them ourselves. And what we felt was that was the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy part. What we are aiming for is to build something like artificial general emotion, not artificial general intelligence. These models are great at it. But what we really want to achieve is the ability for the models we use to be able to mimic the emotional reactions and the emotional drives of any person in the world. So you describe who you want, and the model will be able to mimic the emotional reaction for that. Because we felt that if we got that right, everything else would fall in place. So what is possible today? So when we launched Synthetic Users, we had those two interview types that you see on the right. Problem exploration, a preset set of questions, predefined, always the same questions to kind of explore the problems that a particular set of users might have. And then solution feedback, also kind of predefined scripts to explore how they feel about a potential solution for their problems. And this was great. We got amazing results. People loved it, but it was kind of constraining. And then we launched custom script. Again, you just describe who is your user, who is your audience, and we can run for you any interview script you want. You just tell us what the questions you want to ask the synthetic users, and we'll run that for you. But recently, and this is why today is such an important day, last week we launched dynamic script. What is dynamic script? So essentially, you just define who you want to interview, you define your research goal, and we're going to generate agents that will try to interview synthetic users to probe and to help answer that research goal. Now, let's go for a quick demo. So this is the main interface of synthetic users. And as you can see, we have here my audience. I added this one, but I could add shared just the parents in the US, for example. You can go as deep and as narrow and as niche as you want. And then you just need to click dynamic interview and define what's your research goal. So my research goal, I have it here just for the sake of time, is find out their biggest challenges and how they've tried to solve them. Click save. I select how many interviews I want to run, and I just click generate. What's happening now is that I'm generating 3 different synthetic users that are all shared custody parents in the US, but diverse among themselves. This is quite an important aspect for us, is to capture the diversity that exists within that particular group. And our agent starts interviewing that user. So here on the left, we have this profile of the synthetic user with a name, an age, a location, and a profession. And then we have kind of the parenting philosophy and how the co-parent relationship quality is and what type of custody arrangement. And our agent knows exactly this profile and generates questions for it, appropriate questions. And then we get an answer from the user. As you can see, we have another one here. This interview has been running a little bit long, and we have the third one here. For the sake of time, because this takes around, for these 3 interviews, it's going to take around 5 minutes to do the 6 questions that I asked my agent to do. I didn't ask for specific 6 questions. I just told them at max, ask 6 questions. So he's going to be running this. And I have here another one that I've already run for the sake of time. So as you can see, it was the Europe one that I had on the first card, same question. And these are the interviews. As you can see, it goes deep. It takes into account the exact characteristics of this synthetic user, and it probes and it tries to explore. And then when everything is finished, we have more interviews here. When everything is finished, you click the generate report and you get this beautiful summary of what was said during those interviews and even a suggestion of a follow-up question. I'm going to take this follow-up question and I'm going to ask one of my synthetic users about it. Let's just do this really quick. So as you can see, here we have the synthetic user answering this particular one, answering real time one of this, one further follow-up question. So amazing. Going back to our presentation, why is this the future? So this is kind of an extremely simplified version of how we create products. We can find a problem to solve, we imagine how to solve it, we see if it's feasible, if there's money to be made there, then we develop it, and then we promote it. What we believe is that in the near future, what will happen is that you're going to have agents for each one of these roles. So a user research agent, which is essentially what you now have available at synthetic users, then a product design agent, a product manager agent, a marketeer, and a product development agent that will work as a swarm in coordination. We have this conductor agent at the center because coordination challenges are one of the big things when we work with agents. And this is essentially how we see the future evolving. But why stop here? We can have multiple agents for a lot more narrow tasks, because the narrower an agent is, the more, the better it can work on its own task. So this is how we've been seeing the future move. But why? Because recently, a lot of multi-agent frameworks have come out. Some of them are really, really, really impressive. I love Camel, I love AutoGen. We've been playing around with both to develop our features. This paper that you see here on the top left came out yesterday, and it's from Google, and it describes Concordia, a really good way to make these agents interact out there with the world. And this is a way for agents to be able to coordinate and to work together to achieve goals. Another important aspect of this is that until now, I described agents that would be talking about among themselves, and this gives you great results. But sometimes there's tasks for which agents are not great at. So if you need up-to-date information, you know that the models have a cut point in their training data, and everything after that, it's not possible. So you can use tools. And large language models are great at learning tools and learning how to use them. You can use search like you already do on Bing. You can use a calculator. They're not great at math, but you can give them access to a calculator. You can do retrieval augmented generation. So if you have a set of documents that you want them to use to answer you, you can also use that. Also, you stock market data. Any available API can be taught to a model or to an agent, and it can then use it to, for example, create an Instagram ad to test the pool of a particular approach to solve a problem that the user has. So you prototype and you have an idea of something that could solve a user problem. Instead of go and build it, first generate an ad on Instagram, see how many people click on it, and you have kind of that level of validation. Taking all of this into account, let me explain a little bit of where we're going next concretely with synthetic users. So one thing that a lot of people have been asking for is comparison studies, the ability to run interviews with two separate groups side by side, and then have a report that summarizes the similarities, but also the differences between the outcomes of those interviews. The ability for you to import your data. So you can bring your customer support tickets, your user interviews that you already have, and enrich your synthetic users. Now we are in the qualitative realm, so we run user interviews, qualitative interviews, but we also want you to allow you to run surveys. We want to move also on the quantitative side. And then two very important aspects. One of them is local models. Until now, we've been using state-of-the-art models, namely GPT-4 from OpenAI. But a lot of our users, particularly the enterprise one, have been asking us, can you have a way for me to use your product without sharing my data with external APIs? And that's why we're working on local models. So we want to use open source models to run them on our own infrastructure and eventually in our clients' infrastructure, so you can be sure of privacy. And also what this will allow you is also to own your own synthetic users. So synthetic users that learn with time and become even more valuable to your business. I hope this was clear to all of you. With these QR codes, you can get a 20%. We're going to be launching our pricing next week. With this QR code, you can get a 20% discount. You can also give feedback on the presentation and can get a 20% discount for the first year of synthetic users.
Thank you so much, Hugo. I also highlighted the link in the chat for people that are interested. It's definitely worth signing up. There's a waiting list, but it doesn't take too long, right?
Okay. No, it doesn't.
Exactly. Couple of questions. So let me start with the most popular one. I'm a firm believer that this will have the most impact in B2B. I do have an echo. But how can we use synthetic users the best in B2B customer research? Do you have tips or tricks?
There's not a big distinction in between using synthetic users for B2B or B2C research. The more performant our synthetic users are, is the more you're able to describe concretely who is your audience or who is your customer. So in B2B, we know that we have kind of the user and the buyer. So in those cases, probably you should be doing both. You should be interviewing the user more about their concrete needs and what today that your solution is supposed to solve, and the buyer more on the side and how all the process is managed internally. So most importantly, it's always about the quality also of the input. We know this from everything else, standard research, garbage in, garbage out. So you should invest in iterating your description of the synthetic users.
Okay, 100%. Next one is from Jonas. Hi, Jonas.
Yes.
So will it be possible to set this up in your own isolated environment?
Yes. I imagine this question might have been asked before my last slide, because that's essentially what I was saying. When we get to the probably first quarter of next year, when we have our open source models trained with our own data and that we can then with a Docker file or something similar, provide to our customers, and they can deploy it in Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and run it with a guarantee that no data is leaving your premises.
Okay, perfect. Next one, and I assume you have a lot of data already in-house, but someone's asking, and I've read academic studies as well, but someone's asking what would be the role. No, sorry, not that one. Basically, question is jumping now, but someone's asking like, do you have results specifically on AI?
Yes. So
Oh, sorry,
the thing is, the
I
reason why
I actually didn't notice, but we went off. Time
oh,
was time was up. Time was up. It goes naturally, but I think that were actually the most important questions. And I shared your LinkedIn so people can get in touch straight with you.
cool, perfect.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Shifting, so
Hugo.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you.